Scroll of Record, Kolbrin Bible, Book 4, Sons of Fire, Chapter 7 through 14. My belief is they have different perspectives of a time of troubles, starting with invasion, migration, journey to a land of mist, harbor of sorrow, separation, Hezekiah returns, struggles, and a new day. I will be leaving the verses as is, but moving some around to highlight where I think it shows crossovers of the same events, but from different perspectives. No commentary. I'll leave it up to the individual to decide if it makes sense. SOF 763. Now after 3 days had passed, Lachish said to Hezekiah, "The time has come when I must depart. I shall go unto my king, who is now your king, and speak with him concerning you. It is well that I go now and dally not unduly here, for mayhap as things are, he will lend a willing ear to my words. But if I dally here with you, others will gain his ear with another account." So Lachish departed, and Hezekiah was grieved. SOF 764. Before he left, Lachish was given horses and servants, also slaves and asses with food for the journey, and Lachish said to Hezekiah, "We shall meet again, for it is decreed in the book of heaven." SOF 765. Athaliah came before Hezekiah many times and said, "Lord, let me depart from your residence and dwell in a place not too far off." And Hezekiah was perplexed within himself because of her manner of speech, for he did not understand what she wanted. He said, "Have no fear for the women of my household, for there is none I desire but you." SOF 766. And it came to pass that on his way to the king, Lachish was stricken with a sickness, and lay as one already dead. And for many days his soul was prepared for departure. And while he lay sick, the power that bound the eyes of Hezekiah became weakened, and the eyes of Hezekiah were no longer bound. SOF 767. Now Hezekiah purged his household, and spent the days dealing with his estates, and his lands flourished. His servants no longer bickered among themselves as before, and contentment reigned within his shadow. SOF 768. So when many days had passed, and all things were ordered, Hezekiah called his steward, and said unto him, "Let a feast be prepared, as the land has given generously to me, so will I give no less generously." Hezekiah said this, and it was done. SOF 769. Now there was a woman called Miriam, of the household of Isaiah, who was fair to behold, and she sought the favor of Hezekiah. And among the women there was much talk of Athaliah, who remained ever veiled, for there were those among the women who knew her, but none spoke to Hezekiah, for he was a man who talked little with women, and Athaliah stood first in his eyes. SOF 770. Miriam had not seen the degradation of Athaliah, nor had she seen her unveiled, but it came to pass that she spied upon Athaliah one day, while she was about her toilet, and seeing her unveiled, Miriam took counsel with herself. SOF 771. Now the day of feasting came, and many were the guests, but of half men and wanton women there were none. And among the women Athaliah sat apart, and among the men there was much talk of riches and battles, and of spoils of war and husbandry. SOF 772. Among the guests was a young lord who sought the favors of Miriam. And while the feasting and dancing were at their height, they came one to the other, and as they dallied beyond the torchlight, Miriam said unto him, "Am I fair indeed?" And he answered her, saying, "You are fair even among the fairest." Then she said unto him, "Yet there is one more fair by far, so fair that she needs to go veiled before men. She is Athaliah, wife of Hezekiah. Who keeps her thus? He fears for himself, and does not trust her, for this is his weakness." And Miriam moved away from the young lord, saying, "Go, look upon her face, and if you can then say, 'I am the fairest of the fair,' I shall know that your heart speaks sincerely of itself, and not at the behest of your body." SOF 773. The young lord returned to the feasting and sat in a place nearby to Hezekiah, and spoke to those about him, saying, Have any among you seen a woman here who rivals the fairest bearers of myrtle and palm? And the men rebuked him, saying, It is not meet to talk thus about the women of a household wherein you are a guest. Are they to be judged as are women of the night? SOF 774. But the tongue of the young lord was not stayed, and he replied, saying, That which causes talk will be talked about. And Hezekiah heard him and was angry, and said, What in my household moves foolish tongues to gossip? The young lord said, That which a man tries to conceal ever arouses the interest of others. Does any man conceal that of which he is proud? And Hezekiah looked about him, saying, This talk I do not understand. The young lord said, My lord, men talk of what lies beneath the veil of the woman you brought here. Is she indeed as fair as men say? Or is there truth even in the gossip of women? SOF 775. And those who knew about the degradation of Athaliah muttered among themselves, for her secret could not be kept hidden. They said, This is loose talk and wicked. Let the evil which belongs to the past remain buried. Does this concern any man but Hezekiah? Are we among women that the talk should be thus, as our custom to be lightly set aside? Let the veil remain. SOF 776. But Hezekiah, hearing the muttering, thought wrongly of what was said, and he spoke to the young lord, saying, This woman is fair as few women are fair. Should I not know? This you shall indeed see for yourself. And Hezekiah said within himself, Long enough have I indulged Athaliah her whims. Does a pearl give pleasure within its shell? And Hezekiah sent his attendant for her. SOF 777. So Athaliah came with her handmaiden, and Miriam came too, and stood close behind them. And Athaliah stood before Hezekiah and said, My lord, what is your wish? And he said to her, Woman, remove your veil. And Athaliah put her hand to the veil and pleaded with him, saying, My lord, there are many men here, and strangers. There is a custom of my people by which I abide. And men hearing her voice looked one at another. And the oldest among them said to Hezekiah, Let the woman be, for this is of no importance and of no interest to us. Allow her the whim, for such is the nature of women. Shall we deny them their small pleasures? Athaliah inclined her head toward the man who spoke, and as she did so, Miriam stepped forward and caught hold of the veil, and snatching it aside, and the stricken face of Athaliah was revealed to the gathering. SOF 778. All men were silent and still like statues, and Hezekiah looked at Athaliah, and she at him, and Hezekiah saw her as she was, and Athaliah knew what he saw. Then came the voice of the young lord, saying, Behold the pearl of Hezekiah. And Hezekiah turned upon him in rage and slew him. SOF 779. And Hezekiah turned to Athaliah, who stood still and alone, saying, What evil has been wrought here? Begone, take your face from me. And Athaliah went out between the gathering, and passing into her bedchamber, she took a draught of poison. And her handmaiden sped to Hezekiah, saying, Come, my lord, my mistress dies. SOF 780. Then Hezekiah, his heart filled with remorse, sped to Athaliah, and as he came unto her, she died. SOF 781. And Hezekiah wept over her, and his heart was filled with grief. And he looked upon the body of Athaliah and said, I have slain the life within my own heart. I have slain the one who cherished me in my blindness, the one who loved beyond the bounds of love. SOF 782. In his anguish the eye of his soul was opened, and saw the soul of Athaliah standing nearby, and Hezekiah was dazzled by the vision of her beauty, for she was radiant as the sun. He stretched out his hands toward her, but could not touch her, for she was beyond the reach of earthly things. And she shook her head at him, and raising her hand, departed to the antechamber of eternity. SOF 783. Hezekiah raised himself up and strode out from the chamber, but he returned not again to the place of feasting. He sorrowed many days. This is a mental exercise, a what-if scenario. I'm not going to argue if it is historical. I myself tend to believe that it is, but I'll leave it up to each person to decide. What I do believe is it can be a great morality tale. That is what I'm attempting to do here. There are myths, self-help books that we can all accept as wisdom or having some value even though it's not labeled as from God. I see the other religious texts like the Bible, the Quran, or the Torah as having the same value. We argue only over the claim that it came from God. To me, that clouds the real value in all the books. So if it helps, look at this as a morality tale.